That night I was angry and my family was angry.
A few days after the funeral, CP3's school had a game, and Chris demanded to play. The otherwise pass-happy Paul wasn't looking to find his teammates for the first time in his career, as his only mission was to reach 61 points, one for every year of his grandpa's life. Towards the end of the game, CP hit a float.
All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. Hope you all having a good day so far. So I wanted to check out this video. It's not the exact video that was requested that I watch, but this was on my list already, and I wanted to check this out. So for you who asked me to react to the Point God video, I thought it was going to be easier to find than it was, and there is a ton of videos that pop up when I type in Chris Paul Point God. So maybe if you see this and you stick it in the comment what the creator name was as well, then I'll get to that one. But this one I already had on my list, and this is how good was Prime Chris Paul actually. And this is from Nonstop, and I wanted to check this out. I hear he's retiring after this season. Sad season to go out on too, with Wemby going down. You know, they were looking playoff bound, but the whole season basically just collapsed on their head. So it's sad to see Chris Paul go out like this. I wanted to see him go out as a Phoenix Sun, but it is what it is. And yeah, I wanted to watch this because going back even before the Clippers days, prime, in my opinion, Hornets Chris Paul was prime Chris Paul. And this guy was an absolute monster on the court. He was full speed. The guy could dunk. He thought about scoring a lot more than he did as he got older. But anyways, I'm sure this video is going to cover it all. So as I always do, I'm going to link the original video down below. That's going to be in the description for you guys. Everyone, please leave this video a like. Let's do this.
When there's a discussion about the greatest point guards of all time, Chris Paul's name rarely comes up.
I can't believe he never won a championship. That whole career, he never won a championship. And he's going to be kind of forgotten like Steve Nash is, or like a Kevin Johnson.
Yet, in terms of basketball skills, no other point guard in NBA history checks as many boxes as CP3. Orchestrating the offense and serving perfect passes? Check. Playing elite all-NBA level defense? Check. Scoring, shooting efficiency, insanely low amount of turnovers? Check, check, and check. On top of being second all-time in assists, 9 all-defensive teams, and 11 all-star selections, Chris Paul is a natural leader who elevated the play of his teammates wherever he played, along with crazy work ethic and Jordan-level competitiveness. So why is CP3 not in the conversation for GOAT NBA point guards? Well, it's because for the first 12 years of his career, he never even made the conference finals. Then he lost the NBA finals.
Yeah, he did. Yep, he did.
Along with some other embarrassing playoff meltdowns. But did those losses tarnish his legacy forever?
What?
And how good was prime Chris Paul actually? This is the story of Chris Paul and how an undersized...
It's always the argument whenever I bring up how much better we were when we had Chris Paul on our team. Is the fact that he was injured during crucial moments. And I can't, that's the one thing I can't argue with. I'm like, I know, but it's not like it's intentional. So I still want him here, but yeah, it did get a little old whenever we'd be, in a tough situation in the playoffs. And then he's got like a hamstring or a groin injury or back then, he had COVID or whatever the hell the case may be.
Point guard became the point god. Chris was born in 1985 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and he was obsessed with sports. He was a quarterback in football and a point guard in basketball. And when he wasn't playing, Chris was repairing cars.
Come on, we could all totally see him being a quarterback. I get it.
Grandfather had the first black-owned service station in North Carolina.
Wow.
And Chris and his older brother grew up pumping gas, rotating tires, and changing oil. His grandpa, Nathaniel Jones, called Papa Chili, was a role model for Chris, who taught him the meaning of hard work and leadership.
My granddad was my best friend.
And Chris was a natural leader. He was the class president in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and this leadership and perseverance translated to the basketball court. Chris was barely 5'1" when he started high school, and he tried out for the basketball team. While some of his friends made fun of him and teased him about his height, his grandpa believed in him. And
Yo, I was 6'1". I was a whole foot taller than him when I started high school. But then I stopped growing at 6'3". How did he have such a late growth spurt?
Told him to push through. However, because of his small stature, CP only made the junior varsity team. But that was a blessing in disguise, as he was able to play 30 minutes a game and learn how to command the floor as a point guard. And when he sprouted to 5'10" before his junior year, Chris started dominating.
So 9 inches in 2 years?
As he averaged 26 points and 9 assists per game. As a senior, CP3 grew 2 more inches to his current height of 6 feet, and nobody could deal with him anymore. Exceptionally quick, strong, and sturdy for his frame, Paul played much taller than his height. He averaged 31 points, 6 rebounds, 9.5 assists, and an insane 6 steals per game.
6 steals, man.
Leading West Forsyth to a 27-3 record and a trip to the regional finals. Paul would receive letters to play at all the major universities.
Okay, I didn't know about his high school career. This is fun.
But he decided to go to the nearby Wake Forest University, largely due to the relationship he developed with their coach, Skip Prosser, who was not afraid to challenge Paul. Chris signed his letter of intent to join Wake Forest on November 14, 2002. But on November 15th, the Paul family suffered an immense tragedy. While he was taking groceries out of his car, several teenagers tried to rob Chris's grandfather. They beat him up, and his body couldn't withstand the injuries, and he died of a heart attack. Papa Chili's death sent shockwaves throughout the community, and Chris was absolutely devastated to lose his role model.
I get it now. He was talking about something. He was talking about this, it turns out, on a podcast with, I think it was Carmelo Anthony. I didn't quite get the context, but now I do. That was like his role model, his idol. But he talked about, like, yeah, he's probably going to talk about it right here.
Angry. That night I was angry, and my family was angry.
A few days after the funeral, CP3's school had a game, and Chris demanded to play. The otherwise pass-happy Paul wasn't looking to find his teammates for the first time in his career, as his only mission was to reach 61 points, one for every year of his grandpa's life.
Wow.
Towards the end of the game, CP hit a floater for his 61st point and got fouled, which sent him to the free throw line. He then intentionally missed the free throw, avoiding the 62nd point, and then walked to the bench, crying his eyes out. This story made national headlines,
insane.
and Chris Paul became a known name.
Wow. I just paused it because it's going so fast and just like, wow. What a huge thing he did there. A pass first guy scoring 61 to dedicate it to his grandfather's age right after he passes. Like, how? Damn, man. 61 points.
61 was one of the dopest things I feel like I've ever done.
At the end of his high school career, this publicity helped him to get named North Carolina Mr. Basketball. CP3 also played in a McDonald's All-American game, where he teamed up with LeBron James and finished with a game-high 10 assists. As a freshman at Wake Forest, Paul immediately took the reins over the team, despite being the only freshman getting significant minutes. Chris averaged 14.8 points, 5.9 assists, and 2.7 steals per game, shooting 49% from the field and 47% from three, setting school
shooting good threes.
Freshman records for three-point percentage, free throws, free throw percentage, assists, and steals. Behind his great play, the Demon Deacons qualified for the NCAA tournament, losing in the Sweet 16. And then, in his sophomore season, Chris's numbers improved marginally to 15.3 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 6.6 assists. But in the final game of the regular season, Chris showed his maniacal competitiveness and what kind of jerk he turns into when the game starts. In the heat of the battle, Paul punched the opposing guard, Julius Hodge, in the groin, for which he received a one-game suspension from the ACC tournament.
Yeah, all right, to be fair, Chris Paul does some dirty shit. He did. He did it when he was a son. He did it when he wasn't a son. It was, it is what it is, man.
Paul's college teammate.
He also does a lot of the Dennis Rodman thing where he baits somebody into shoving him or hitting him, and then he reacts, which is, I mean, it's fair game. It's psychological warfare.
Justin Gray described him with the word genius. But just like any genius, he has a crazy side to him. That obsessiveness that can bring out the worst of him. And when the game starts, he's ready for anything. CP wanted to stay in college, but when his agent told him that he would certainly be a top 5 pick and become a millionaire, for the sake of his family and to achieve his ultimate goal, Chris declared for the 2005 NBA Draft.
The New
Good choice.
Orleans Hornets select Chris Paul from Wake Forest University.
And even though there was some concern whether a 6-foot point guard could become a top-notch player, CP3 killed those doubts quickly. He averaged 16 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and over 2 steals per game, winning Western Conference Rookie of the Month in every month of the season.
Yeah, I remember seeing him come out his rookie year because I did not have eyes on him at all until I think I was probably watching a Suns game, and I think it was Suns versus Hornets, and I was going like, damn, man, this dude could play. And he was so freaking young. I was too busy watching mainly Dwayne Wade during that time as far as these rookies go. Then I was intrigued by Carmelo Anthony, and I was watching LeBron as well. But CP3, he flew under my radar until I saw him live, and I was like, okay, this guy's something.
And was just 1 vote shy of winning Rookie of the Year unanimously. New Orleans improved from 18 wins in 2005 to 38 wins in 2006, which unfortunately still wasn't enough to make the playoffs. In his sophomore season, CP increased his averages to 17.3 points and 8.9 assists. But due to him missing 18 games and injuries to other starters, New Orleans missed the playoffs again. But in Paul's 3rd season, there was no more denying him or the Hornets, as they were called then. CP led the league in assists with 11.6 and in steals with 2.7, along with 21 points and 4 rebounds per game.
Nice.
New Orleans won 56 games and finished 2nd in the West, which was and still is the best result in franchise history.
Yeah, for him, if he can get 20 points, 10 assists, I always figure everything else is just gravy. It's always bonus. But that is the perfect place to see him is 20 and 10.
Because of his great play and major improvement from his team, CP finished 2nd in MVP voting, behind Kobe Bryant. In his playoff debut against Dallas, Paul scored 35 points. And in the second game, he notched a franchise record 17 assists, as New Orleans took a 2-0 lead. The Mavs bounced back in Game 3, but that was all they could do, as nobody on the Dallas team could stop Paul from penetrating into the heart of their defense and doing whatever he wanted from there. CP
That's
led
what I miss from him, is when he was young and able, he could drive. I mean, that first step was insane. And if he was like around 4 to 5 feet from the rim, he's sinking it no matter what's happening.
New Orleans to their first playoff series win in franchise history, with 24 points, 12 assists, and 2 steals per game.
Damn.
But in the second round, awaited one of the toughest possible opponents, the defending champion San Antonio Spurs.
Oh, yeah,
And even though
no
he
chance.
played against 3 future Hall of Famers, Paul was the best player in the series. He was the engine driving the entire offense, hitting shots, drawing fouls, and delivering perfect passes in tight spaces. Defensively, he was a major pest with quick hands and a great understanding of angles. And because of his sturdy frame and low center of gravity, it was impossible to post him up and move him out of position. Paul led all players in the series in points, assists, and steals, pushing the Spurs to Game 7. But he couldn't get his team over the hump, as San Antonio won 91-82 despite 18 points, 14 assists, and 5 steals from Paul in the deciding game. During the summer,
No wonder why eventually Pop recruited him.
Paul was the starting point guard on the Team USA Olympic squad, also known as the Redeem Team. CP led the team in assists and helped Team USA win the gold medal, going 8-0 in the tournament. And when the 2009 NBA season started, Paul was better than ever. He scored a career-high 22.8 points per game, shooting over 50% from the field, and he once again led the league in assists with 11 and steals with 2.8. Paul was in his 4th season and was at a point where the game slowed down for him significantly. And that's when superstars usually put up their best statistical seasons. Even though he was never a scorer like Jordan, Kobe, or LeBron,
Could be.
Chris's all-around excellence couldn't be ignored, and he finished 5th in the MVP voting.
Yeah,
And
Chris Paul is a true pass first guy because he doesn't have to choose that, but he does. Steve Nash was also the same way. That guy was the best shooter on the court every single night, but he chose to pass first.
6th in voting for Defensive Player of the Year. Magic Johnson won 3
Wait,
in the MVP voting and 6th in voting for Defensive.
damn, dude. Yeah, I forget how good his defense is when or was when he was young.
Player of the Year. Magic Johnson won 3
Hold on, one more look at the list. That's the most valuable.
MVP voting and 6th.
Dwight Howard, LeBron James, D Wade, LeBron James, Cleveland. Really? Wow. Shane Battier, okay, Meta World Peace, that makes sense. Chris Paul. Wow. KG, Kobe, yeah, I'm surprised by number 2 there.
Voting for Defensive Player of the Year. Magic Johnson won 3 MVPs in his career, and his averages in those 3 seasons were 23 points and 12 assists on 50% shooting, which is almost identical to Paul's 2009 season, with the exception that Magic wasn't nearly as good a defender as CP.
True.
And the only thing missing for Paul to win the MVP was better teammates.
I know.
Apart from David
so
West,
true.
the Hornets had very little talent. Their bench was basically non-existent, and without Paul, the team would be deep in the lottery. But with CP playing at an elite level on both ends of the court, they won 49 games in a stacked Western Conference. In the first round of the playoffs, they faced the Denver Nuggets with Carmelo Anthony and Chauncey Billups, and they stood no chance. The Nuggets were a much more talented team, especially offensively, and New Orleans was out of the playoffs in 5 games. In 2010, CP3 missed almost half the season due to a knee injury. And
Yeah,
the
and to me, that's the end of his prime right there. Like everything that happens after is still really cool, but that was his prime.
Hornets missed the playoffs.
We're going to see you back on the court, you think?
As soon as possible. You know, Doc said 4 to 6 weeks, so I'm just trying to do my rehab as much as possible.
The next year, Paul was healthy, playing in 80 games, averaging 16 points, 10 assists, and a league-leading 2.4 steals per game. The Hornets made the playoffs as the 7th seed and had to face the defending champion LA Lakers in the first round. CP was playing out of his mind, averaging 22 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 11.5 assists on ultra-efficient 55% shooting and 47% for 3. But it still wasn't enough, as the Lakers won the series in 6 games. After that series, it was clear that Paul was wasting his talent in New Orleans. The Hornets were a mediocre team, talented enough to make the playoffs, but not able to do anything once they got there.
Yep.
And because they were a playoff team, they weren't getting high draft picks. And since they weren't an attractive destination for free agents, it meant they were stuck in mediocre purgatory, and everyone knew it. Fearing that Paul would leave the team for free when he became a free agent, the Hornets decided to trade him to at least get something in return. And that brings us to the most controversial moment of Chris Paul's career, which had nothing to do with him personally. On December 8, 2011, Paul was traded to the LA Lakers,
here we
forming
go.
a star-studded backcourt with Kobe Bryant. The Rockets, who entered this deal as the 3rd team, would receive Pau Gasol, while the Hornets would get veteran forwards Lamar Odom and Luis Scola, young guards Kevin Martin and Goran Dragic, and a 2012 first-round draft pick. It was a win-win-win trade that looked great on paper for everybody. But not everybody thought so. See, the Hornets were owned by the NBA, who bought the team a year earlier so it wouldn't go bankrupt and fold. And because of that, all the final decisions surrounding the team were decided by the NBA commissioner David Stern. While Chris Paul was at home packing his bags and celebrating that he'd be teaming up with Kobe, Commissioner David Stern vetoed the trade.
New Orleans decided not to make the trade.
Everybody involved felt cheated, especially Chris Paul. However, just 4 days later, CP did get his trade to Los Angeles, but it was to the Clippers, who gave up Eric Gordon, Chris Kaman, Al-Farouq Aminu, and a first-round pick. The irony was that the original trade offered a better package
did.
for New Orleans,
It really
but the
did.
commissioner felt that the Hornets would be too good to yield a high draft pick, and yet too bad to be a contender.
A very good transaction and better for the future of the Hornets.
See, being mediocre was the worst place for an NBA team, and Stern
I guess he was really adamant about that draft pick, that first round draft pick. But I still think that first deal was better for the Hornets.
felt that it would lower the price for the upcoming sale of the franchise, once again proving that the NBA is a business first and a sport second.
We're going to prove to you that we still love this game. We hope you do too.
Despite all that, Stern and the NBA probably did Chris Paul a favor. Even though he and Kobe would certainly become the best backcourt in the NBA, Bryant was 33 at the time, and in the last few years of his prime.
Oh, it don't matter. If Chris Paul would have got one championship out of this deal, It would have been worth it for him.
And without Pau Gasol and Lamar Odom, who were a part of the trade, CP would have very little help outside of the agent.
Yeah, Bynum would have to step in for Gasol. I'm not sure who would step up in Lamar Odom's place, though, because that was he played a pretty pivotal role.
Kobe. But with the Clippers, he had the most talented young forward in the NBA, Blake Griffin,
Lob City
and
was
a
fun.
defensive specialist, DeAndre Jordan.
I don't know about you guys. I never really believed in Lob City, but it was sure fun to watch.
2012 season started, Paul led the Clippers' fast-paced offense, and because he had high-flying finishers at the rim, he often threw spectacular alley-oop dunks to Griffin or Jordan, which quickly earned the Clippers a new nickname, Lob City. Paul averaged 20 points, 9 assists, and 2.5 steals per game, which once again led the NBA, and finished third in the MVP voting behind LeBron and KD. CP then led the Clippers past the Grizzlies in the first round of the playoffs, which marked just the third playoff series win in franchise history.
I commend the Memphis Grizzlies. I ain't worked that hard in my life.
But in the next round, Paul's shot wasn't falling against the Spurs, and San Antonio sobered the Clippers up quickly and painfully, dominating all 4 games for a series sweep. For the 2013 season, the Clippers added Jamal Crawford and Matt Barnes, which helped them to win a franchise record 56 games in the regular season. CP averaged 17 and 10, led the league in steals for a third consecutive year, and finished 4th in the MVP voting. But in the playoffs, another disappointment and another painful first-round exit. The grit and grind Grizzlies were a better coached team, and they won the series in 6 games despite an efficient 23 points and 6 assists per game from Paul. After that
only
fiasco,
6 assists.
The Clippers fired Vinny Del Negro, who was probably the worst coach in the NBA at the time, and hired Doc Rivers, who brought in championship expectations. Under Rivers,
He was a good hooper for the Spurs once upon a time.
Jordan became a prominent starter, averaging 35 minutes per game. Blake developed as a playmaker, and they were surrounded by shooters in Crawford, Barnes, and the newly acquired J.J. Redick. And Chris Paul was running the team like a conductor runs the orchestra, surgically dissecting defenses in the pick and roll, throwing lobs, hitting shooters with perfect chest passes, and making countless mid-range jumpers from the right elbow, aka the Chris Paul zone. And finally, in his 9th season in the NBA, after a series of badly constructed rosters, CP had a team to contend for the championship. The Clippers won 57 games and improved their franchise record, finishing 3rd in the West. Paul averaged 19 per game, he led the NBA in steals for the 4th time in a row and 6th time in 7 years, while also leading the league in assists for the 3rd time. But in the middle of their first-round series against Golden State, the Clippers went through the biggest scandal in franchise history, with the owner, Donald Sterling's leaked racist comments.
Yeah, it bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people.
No.
I'm not a racist. I made a terrible, terrible mistake.
That's not a mistake. You say stuff like that out loud because that's what you really believe. The mistake was you said it to the public and it got leaked. That was your mistake. But it's not a mistake. That's how you feel. That's who you are, man. And I don't use the word racist often. That's what racism looks like. It's just embedded in you, man. It's just who you are.
After which the Clippers players...
You think of people with different colors in your skin as not like human. And that's what makes you racist, you know? You can't say those people or this colored people treat them differently than other people that look closer to you. That's just racism, dude. Anyways, I'm done. Let's move on.
Considered boycotting Game 4 of the series.
Before the game, Clippers staging a silent protest of sorts, taking off their warm-ups, the Clippers name and logo.
However, despite the turmoil, the Clippers decided to play. Chris Paul had to dig deep to battle Steph Curry, but after 7 grueling games, the Clippers emerged on top. And then, in the second round, another tough opponent awaited, KD and Westbrook. Paul led the Clippers to a Game 1 win against OKC. The Thunder won the next 2, but CP countered in Game 4, leading LA to victory and tying the series. And then, in the deciding moments of Game 5, Paul messed up everything, committing 2 costly turnovers and fouling Westbrook on a 3-point attempt. CP gave away the game as OKC escaped with a 105-104 victory in what was the biggest meltdown of Paul's career. It's me. Everything that happened at the end is on me. The Clippers
at least he took accountability for it because it was obvious what happened. I don't know if you call that a choke or just yeah, he kind of choked. It is what it is. He did the loud choke instead of the quiet choke, where he just, yeah, he tried to do too much, and that was his problem. He didn't crumble like we know a lot of people do when they choke, but he definitely tried to do too much. I hit a button, and
CP averaged his usual number, but not only did wouldn't win the title. Took the wind out of the Clippers.
Okay.
Clippers 40-15 in the fourth quarter as the Clippers shot.
Okay, I'm so sorry, you guys.
With 8 minutes to go, it looked like a bad hamstring.
Green on Paul, and he got it!
Okay.
Finally advanced to the first conference finals in franchise history, and everybody was already getting their popcorn ready for the clash between the Clippers and the Warriors. But then a complete...
Man, I really screwed up, you guys. Where's OKC?
CP averaged his usual numbers and led the NBA in assists from a space to dribble, and it was impressive to see him
here we go.
advanced. This series will be remembered for Paul's mistakes, but overall he played... It's me. Everything that happened at the end.
I'm so sorry, you guys.
The Clippers had their chances in Game 6, but they once again lost their cool in the clutch, and the Thunder advanced. This series will be remembered for Paul's mistakes, but overall he played a heck of a series, averaging 22 points, 12 assists, and 2.5 steals, shooting 51% from the field and 45% for three.
Nice.
But maybe the most impressive thing is that in the clutch moments, he successfully guarded Kevin Durant. Paul planted his body under KD, denying him a space to dribble, and it was impressive to see him battle a guy a whole foot taller.
Yeah, he's going low. And that's like right around chest level for Chris Paul. Because I see that with Kevin Durant still to this day. He likes to turn around, face up, dangle the ball really low, and that for a little guy, that's right in their reach.
Despite the tough loss, the Clippers were still young, and their core had room to grow. In the 2015 season, they won 56 games. CP averaged his usual numbers and led the NBA in assists for the fourth time. And then, in the first round of the playoffs against San Antonio, he played probably the best series of his career. Paul shot 50-40-90 for the series, averaging 23 points and 8 assists. But what was most important, he showed up in the clutch. In Game 7, with everything on the line, he made the floater to win the series, despite playing on a bad hamstring.
That's a tough shot. Look at that kiss off the glass.
1 second left.
This finally seemed to be the year that the Clippers had put it all together, especially after they took a 3-1 lead against the Rockets in the conference semifinals. The Rockets won Game 5, but in Game 6, the Clippers had a 19-point lead in the third quarter and a 12-point lead with 8 minutes to go. It looked like the Clippers would finally advance to the first conference finals in franchise history.
Dude, this team was a lot of fun to watch.
Everybody was already getting their popcorn ready for the clash between the Clippers and the Warriors. But then, a complete meltdown and one of the biggest choke jobs in NBA history. With James Harden on the bench, the Rockets outscored the Clippers 40-15 in the fourth quarter.
With James Harden on the bench. That's the key there.
The Clippers shot an abysmal 4 for 22 in the fourth quarter.
The Clippers choked. Let's call it what it is.
This loss took the wind out of the Clippers, who lost all confidence and went down in flames in Game 7, with another season down the drain. In the next 2 seasons, either Paul or Griffin got hurt in the playoffs, and the team chemistry eroded. Fights became more frequent, and it was clear that the Lob City Clippers wouldn't win the title. In the 2018 season, CP got traded to Houston, where there was some legitimate skepticism about how he and James Harden would coexist. But not only did they coexist, they thrived. At each moment, Houston had at least one magician with the ball in their hands. And when they played together, they exchanged on-ball duties like they had played together for a decade. Thanks to Harden's ball handling ability, CP was better rested, his three-point efficiency and volume went up, and Houston won 65 games, with Harden winning MVP.
Most valuable player goes to James Harden, the Houston Rockets.
For the first time, Paul wasn't the first option and the best player on the team. But also for the first time, he finally made the conference finals. And there awaited arguably the best team in NBA history, the mighty Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, the Splash Brothers, Draymond, and Iguodala. However, Houston was purposely built to battle this Warriors team. And after 5 games, they held a 3-2 lead, with CP playing exceptionally well in the clutch of Game 5, sealing the win for the Rockets. Unfortunately, near the end of the game, his hamstring gave out, and that was it for Paul, as he was ruled out for the series.
And
the
that's
Warriors
where this became a trend.
Won Game 6 and then also Game
trend.
7, after the Rockets famously missed 27 three-pointers in a row.
This is still the most embarrassing thing in basketball history, in my mind. It's shocking.
For the 2019 season, things didn't work out. Paul and Harden.
What I don't get is, look, I mean, why are you chucking? You're up by 5. You know, you're up by 5 in the third. Stop chucking threes, man. They're not falling. They're just not falling. If they're falling, shoot them. If they're not falling, switch up the strategy. They could have won.
Chemistry wasn't the same, and they once again lost to the Warriors in the playoffs, this time in 6 games. After that, it was clear that the Harden-Paul partnership was coming to an end, and CP3 got shipped to Oklahoma City for Russell Westbrook. At the time, Paul was 34. He was considered past his prime, a locker room cancer, and the worst contract in the NBA. Everybody thought he would be rotting on a lottery team. But CP showed the world why they called him Point God. Like he always did, Paul elevated the play of his teammates, serving as a mentor for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
It's been really cool playing with Shai, because one of the biggest things from the younger generation as they come through the NBA, you can't tell what hand they are.
And against all odds, the Thunder made the playoffs as a 5th seed. In the Orlando bubble, OKC played against Paul's former team, the Rockets, and Chris was giving Houston the business. Trying to show the Rockets they made a huge mistake, CP played like a man possessed, especially in Game 6, when he scored 15 of his 28 points in the 4th quarter to extend the series and force a Game 7. And in the deciding game, CP finished with a triple-double of 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 12 assists.
Damn, I'm not going to lie. With everything going on at this time during COVID, I kind of slept on these guys. I didn't really watch Chris Paul during this time. I knew he was coming to Phoenix, though. That was a big deal. But, yeah, I wasn't really watching him too much.
The Rockets escaped with a 104-102 victory.
Like, OKC was not on my radar at all.
After proving he was still an extremely dangerous player, the Thunder were easily able to trade Paul to a contender, which turned out to be the Phoenix Suns.
This is when he's back
on
my radar.
At the age of 35, CP3 was still a basketball genius, and still at the very top of his game.
Him and Booker together, man, shoot.
Even though he had lost some of his athleticism, he became a master of angles, maximizing every possession.
Yeah, he was just a true leader for the team.
Almost always making the right read and a correct basketball play. Paul was 1 field goal and 2 made threes away from shooting 50, 40, 90 for the season.
I can give a damn
with
about
averages of 16 points and 9 assists, he finished 5th in the MVP voting.
Yeah, his stats never mattered. It was watching every game and seeing his impact on the floor. True captain, man. And Booker played so comfortably. He hasn't ever been that comfortable before Chris Paul or after Chris Paul. Like, I don't know who Booker is now, but Booker had one hell of an identity. He was just an assassin when we had Chris Paul. He wasn't playing point guard, wasn't trying to get assists. His job was to score, and it was brilliant. Chris Paul took care of the rest.
First time, Chris had some luck in the playoffs. In the first round, the Suns got past the Lakers after Anthony Davis got hurt.
That was beautiful.
And then he defeated the Nuggets.
That hamstring injury, I remember watching that with my brother. We celebrated when it happened because we were worried about that Lakers squad.
Without Jamal Murray.
Murray got hit, and Murray's down and hurt. Oh, my goodness.
And the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard.
He grabbed the right leg right away.
Take a step there.
Yeah, he got a bump from Ingles.
So, in his 16th year in the league, Chris Paul finally made the NBA Finals.
Man, it sounds damn good.
Here's when I knew we were going to lose, though. If you would have seen the celebration after they won the conference finals, though with the Western Conference Finals, you would have known, like, these guys, that's it for them. Like, that's the threshold. I didn't want to admit it, but I remember talking to my coworkers and stuff at that time and my friends. I'm like, they're busting champagne bottles like they're doing a true NBA Finals celebration. But the championship is just getting started. Like, that's a bad sign, man.
Milwaukee, things couldn't have started better. Paul scored 32 points with 9 assists to lead Phoenix to victory in Game 1.
Yeah, we started out
great.
great.
Game 2, Drew Holiday hounded CP3 the whole time. But Chris still had 23 and 8, and the Suns had a 2-0 lead. But then Giannis scored 42 in Game 3, and Middleton had 40 in Game 4 to even the series. In the pivotal Game 5, Giannis made a crucial block on Ayton to steal the game. And in the deciding Game 6, the Greek Freak had
this was a problem
on Ayton to steal the game.
A guy like that should never be looking at a situation like this. Where is everyone? And I remember Chris Paul was criticizing the coaching decisions at this time because we never changed our strategy against Giannis. We just played him straight up, and Chris Paul was saying build a wall. You know, just basically make it like force him to be a jump shooter. Same thing they did with Jordan eventually. Force him to be a jump shooter, make him win. It would have happened this season. Giannis would have gotten better later in his career, but he wouldn't. I don't think he would have won this if we would have prevented him from getting into the lane. But in his modern league, with a wide open lane, all you need is one crazy dude who's just going to say, screw it, I'm going right in. What? Drive in, spin off, dunk. It's too easy.
In the deciding Game 6, the Greek Freak had 50, and the Bucks won the game, leaving Paul ringless. CP3 averaged 22 points and 8 assists in the series, shooting 55% from the field and 52% from 3. After the loss, Paul said that he was addicted to playing in the finals and that he couldn't wait to get there again.
Sad.
Unfortunately for him, that statement aged like milk as he never got close to the finals again. In the 2022 season, the Suns won 64 games and had the best record in the league, while Paul led the NBA in assists and finished 9th in the MVP voting at the age of 37. But in the playoffs, the Suns suffered one of the most embarrassing losses in NBA history. After
we had the Lucas special dealt to us.
In second-round series against Dallas, where the home team won every game of the series, the Suns were ready to win Game 7.
Mind you, as painful as this was for me to watch or to re-experience, this is what made me a Luka fan, because I realized, like, there's a lot of stuff I don't like about him, his defense, his flopping, his complaining to the refs, basically the things that remind me of LeBron. I don't like about him, but there's a killer inside of this guy. There's a psychopath inside of Luka Doncic, and if you piss him off enough, he will go off. Like it's rare.
In front of their home fans, and what happened next was the biggest fiasco ever seen in a deciding game.
So many memes.
As the Mavs blew them out by 33 points, and at one point the lead was 46. And that game marked the end of Chris
Paul hits a crucial 3 to cut the lead down to 46 points. Y'all remember those memes?
Which lasted for 17 years. In that period, he averaged 18.1 points, 9.5 assists, 5.5 rebounds, and 2.1 steals per game, shooting an efficient 47% from the field, 37% for 3, and 87% from the charity stripe. Just like his Wake Forest predecessor, Tim Duncan, Chris Paul never took over games in the manner of Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron. CP only has 8 40-point games in his career, as it was never his style to outgun the opponent. CP3 was playing basketball methodically, efficiently, and within a team concept. Like Timmy, Paul was consistently good for so many years that it almost went unnoticed. There were no flashy dunks, no 50-point games, no loud celebrations after plays, but you could always count on his 18, 10, and a couple steals.
Yeah, it's solid production, solid career. I'm sad to see him go, tell you the truth. I'm sad that this is it. If this is really it and he decides to truly retire after this. Great career. Wish he got a ring, especially wish he got a ring in Phoenix. Sorry for what we did to you, man. You didn't deserve it. I fought for you. I wanted us to keep you. But, yeah, you got done dirty at the end of your career, man.
Making the right decisions, hitting elbow middies, and finding an open teammate. Similar to Steve Nash and John Stockton, two pass-first point guards who never won the title, CP3 probably should have taken more shots. And yes, the point guard will likely finish his career without a ring. But aside from a couple playoff meltdowns, Chris Paul has been clutch his entire life. For half of his career, he played on bad teams. And for the other half, he had terrible luck with injuries. He's arguably the best defender ever from the point guard position, with 9 all-defensive teams and 6 times leading the league in steals.
Which is Stockton, maybe. I'm sure there might be someone else I'm missing.
An NBA record. He had an insanely low number of turnovers at just 2.3 for his whole career, compared to Magic Johnson, who had 3.9 turnovers per game, and Isaiah Thomas, who averaged 3.8. John Stockton may have over 3,000 assists more than CP3, but he also had 1,200 more turnovers than Paul. Kobe once said that the world was lucky that Allen Iverson wasn't 6'5". And that saying can translate to Chris Paul, too, because he's probably the greatest small guy to ever play. Thanks for watching. And if you like this one, we have another video for you right here.
Garbage Man became an NBA legend. Nice. Oh, boy. Well, that was really cool. I got to learn about his early career, and I didn't realize how great he was at OKC. So I got to learn some stuff out of this. What'd you guys think of it? And did your view of Chris Paul change at all throughout this? Whether you came in liking him and you disliked him by the end, or vice versa? Because me, I've always liked Chris Paul. He takes a lot of crap, and I can only defend him so much. I can't defend the injuries. It is what it is. But much like an Anthony Davis or something, I'm like, well, when he's healthy, they're one of the best in the world. So it's hard because Chris Paul never struck me as somebody who's faking injuries or wants that time off. He strikes me as somebody who wants to be out there playing. So I never think of like his injuries like, he's soft. No, it's like he's actually hurt. And AD, I can say the same thing. When he's out there and he's healthy, he's one of the best in the world. Absolutely, hands down. He's fantastic. But yeah, I'm going to miss Chris Paul. Like I said, I wish he could have ended his career here in Phoenix. We all loved him here, but it just wasn't meant to be. And I really wish he got an NBA championship, but that also wasn't meant to be. But yeah, hats off to you, man. That was a hell of a career. And a lot of point guards, they can come and go and have a peak for a couple of years. Even though Steve Nash is my favorite, his peak really only lasted about like 7 years, 6 to 7 years. Chris Paul, he pretty much did it his entire career. I mean, we know he peaked out in New Orleans, but he kept he shifted. He went from a fast breakneck speed point guard to just a fundamentally solid, slow, methodical point guard. And the irony is he was producing just as much or even more stats in his later career, playing a more methodical style. But yeah, really, but the whole point of me saying this whole ramble is his peak pretty much lasted his whole career, if you think about it. He was a great point guard his entire career. And Steve Nash had some bumpy years in the beginning and some bumpy years at the end. So anyways, everyone, I'm out of here. Let me know what you guys thought about it. And please leave the video a like if you liked it. Leave it a big, giant, fat dislike if you didn't like it. And subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Everyone hit that bell to get notified for the next one coming tomorrow. And I appreciate you watching and hanging out with me. And I can't wait to see you in the comments. And we'll have a good old conversation about basketball like we always do. All right, Mindcrime community. Oh, my dog is barking and angry, so good time to sign off. Everyone, peace out. Have a good day. Tell your loved ones you love them. Tell your dog to stop barking. And be water, my friends.